This Spanish Grand Prix 2024 edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick. First time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com promo code RACESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome into another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. If you only watch the F1 podcast and you are absolutely confused as to what the hell's going on in this world, I am away. I'll be gone for the next couple of weeks, but we are still bringing you content regardless of the bunker in which I find myself. And we are excited that we actually get an F1 race to talk about this weekend. And damn it, Cody, we were going to bring this to you come hell or high water.
That's right. Your background's different from yesterday. No hotel room bed in the background, just the blank white wall. You should have got like the hot rod sign from home. Just tacked it up to the wall there and made it feel a little bit like home, but that's okay. Glad that you're still able to host, because if you do listen to the NASCAR show, well, yeah, that's better when Rod's around. So glad you're here. Three weeks in a row. Are these guys going to be okay, Rod? Do we need to like send some extra like baby wipes to help them out, or like 3 weeks in a row these guys are going to have to work on these race cars and drive races? Man, I love F1, but they just don't race nearly enough. But here we go, sticking in Europe for a couple of weeks and 3 straight weeks of racing. I'm looking forward to that.
They're going to need naps when it's all said and done. I don't know. You're right. I don't know how they're going to do it. Like a little extra room service, or how's that going to happen?
I saw some banter somewhere about like brace yourself to hear about how hard these crew guys are going to have to work having 3 straight weeks or something. And I'm like, oh boy, don't ask the NASCAR guys about this.
No. And then some of them crossing over from Xfinity to Cup sometimes too. And they got a couple of days worth of work.
Yeah, exactly. So but hey, glad it's here. Nice little Europe swing. Obviously, we're going to start in Spain here with the Spanish Grand Prix. But yeah, I'm pumped for F1 to be back for a couple of weeks in a row here and get us into a nice groove. Hey, if you're newer to checking out the F1 side of things, I think you picked a good time, Rod, because things been heating up here lately. Had some really good competition in the garage, and that's just making the betting even more fun.
Well, and really what's making it more fun is the fact that these things have been, even though Max has been winning, it's still been exciting. They're still like, is he going to win? I mean, this isn't always like last season. It was a foregone conclusion. Max Verstappen going to win this race, going to win it by 6 years. He's going to win next week's race this week too. Just so don't even worry about it. Like he's going to run enough laps in the front. Now we don't know. Like something could happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And he's been beat recently and he's been close to being beat. And even the last time out, if it wasn't for a timely caution or safety car, does Max win that race? I don't think he does, Rod, which, again, it flipped from Miami. It was the other way there. A timely safety car maybe cost him the race. He got it back here. The racing gods always repay it. But, we're sort of entering what could potentially be the next era of F1, where we've got some different competition here. And it's not just from one other driver or one other team. Like we've seen Ferrari obviously beat him at Monaco. You've seen it with Lando. I mean, him and Lando, which we're going to talk about both of them here in a little bit. They've been 1-2 a lot of these races. battling it out. Mercedes is showing some improvement over the last couple of Grand Prix here as well. So we got a nice mixed bag of things, and it's really keeping it exciting. And man, I'm already looking forward to the next season of Drive to Survive, because it's going to be pretty exciting as we continue to go through this and watch all those storylines unfold.
It just goes to show, for as many weeks as we were like, oh, okay, Max, bet on Max, it's fun. I mean, it goes to show that we know when to pivot. We know when to shift gears. We're not just going to come on here and say, give Max the win anymore, because times have changed. We have new information. We have new data. We've studied the tape from the last few weeks, and we've gotten it back, and we know that they're vulnerable now. Red Bull, definitely vulnerable on either end. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But the countdown to football season is on. SGPN has got you covered. The College Football Experience is doing individual team previews. I don't know if you've ever watched Colby do these things, but there's every single college football team in the FBS. He'll even go down to FCS. Man, this guy is a nut. He will do every college football team that's out there. Maybe even your local JUCO. I don't know. If you ask him, he'll break that stuff down for you as well. So make sure you join Colby along on the ride to preview every college football team. Plus, SGPN's 5-Minute Fantasy Football is your quick and dirty football podcast, fantasy football podcast to get you prepped for all things fantasy. And who doesn't love 5 minutes of fantasy? I know everybody else out there will agree with that. So make sure you give that a look as well.
Yeah, Colby is insane. But in a good way, and it's a lot of fun. And hey, if you do like a more obscure team, he's going to cover your team in depth instead of just kind of being lumped in or thrown in somewhere else and forgot about. And he knows what he's talking about. There's no question about that. He knows who your third string quarterback is on, south, left, northeast, western state.
I'd give anything to have that dude's retention. Like he could pull up so much information just off the drop of a hat.
That's why they call him the database. It's all loaded in there, and it's he's good. So definitely check out the College Experience. But in the meantime, check out the Formula One race this weekend. Of course, it is the Spanish Grand Prix. It is the 10th round, by the way, of this season. Just exciting times ahead, because obviously we know we love ourselves some Spanish Grand Prix. It is the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Cody, I'm trying to figure out the what I see from this is like a gelatinous, like the blob from Monsters. What is that one? Inc. No, not Monsters Inc. The one where the big tall girl, whatever, it doesn't matter. The blob that played by Seth Rogen, he's flexing. That's all I can come up with. Okay. Yeah.
See?
That's No, I'm buying that. That's we'll go with that, Rod.
Okay.
I don't I don't know what else I would have. I was coming up with nothing. Or it's almost like a foot stepping into a track and then I don't know. We'll go with yours. I think that I'll agree with your circuit shape here. Only a couple more seasons of this circuit. They are in 2026 going to move the Spanish Grand Prix over to Madrid, Rod. So we only have a couple more times here on the circuit D, whatever you said.
Catalunya, we hardly knew ye. 66 laps around this 4.657 kilometer track, so just under 3 miles for 307.236 kilometers, which, as we know, roughly about 190 miles. The lap record, surprise, surprise, belongs to Max Verstappen, 1 minute 16.330. There are 2 DRS zones in this course. One between 8 and 9, turns 8 and 9, and then another one between 13 and 14. Not very long DRS zones. So this will be one where they have to set themselves up in the corner to overtake in these DRS zones. So it's going to be fun. I mean, there's some tight corners in here. No big horseshoes, but just nice tight little corners. They're going to spend a lot of time at full throttle coming down from 14 to 1 right back into the start finish line. That's a nice long straightaway. It's almost like a drag strip in a way. So get ready for a lot of overtaking on that as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, man. I vaguely remember the one from last year because it's been so long, but I definitely looking forward to this one.
Mr. East Coast now for you. Nice 9 a.m. race. You don't have to get up at 6 a.m. to watch this race. So it'll be nice and easy for you to take there in the on the East Coast, legal betting state too. I noticed. So
Ooh.
watch out, Rod, getting down on the action even more than normal this week.
Just a little bit. But yeah, so well then, Cody, should we? Oh wait, we got to talk about a couple of things. I know there's a couple of things to talk about.
Yeah,
we've
well,
been off for a couple of weeks. There's a couple of things to talk
but
about.
really, there's only like one thing to talk about. There's a ton of driver rumors out there. The grid's going to look a lot fucking different next year, Rod. That's the basic summary. We don't really have any other official announcements since last time we talked, so we'll kind of just leave all the speculation out there. But there's going to be a lot of driver changes and driver swaps, as we know. But the one kind of thing to take going into this, Checo Perez is going to have a 3-place grid penalty here at the Spanish GP after his infringement of Canada. Of course, he drove a significantly damaged car, quote unquote, in Montreal back to the pits. The stewards do not like that kind of stuff, Rod. You park it on the side of the road and you wait for help. He did not do so. So he will have a 3-place grid penalty. Can that be assessed if you qualify last anyways? Who knows? Because that's where he generally is. But that's how it goes.
I'm glad there weren't stewards following me around my junior and senior year of high school. I would have gotten penalized for a significantly damaged car.
Pieces and parts falling off all over the place.
I'm not saying, and damn it, I said I wasn't going to tip the table that much. I'm sorry, guys. If you watched NASCAR last night, you know that I'm on a table here, and it's a very delicate situation in which I've got this set up. So anytime I touch this, it's going to shake. I'm going to try not to, but I can't promise anything. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're getting seasick, I'm sorry. But no, I'm not going to say that my car did not release a significant amount of smog every time I took off. I'd be lying. I single-handedly depleted the ozone layer my entire junior year with the car that I drove. So I'm sorry, environmentalists. Sorry.
Yeah, I had that pickup truck that didn't have reverse, so I had to make sure I parked somewhere always that I could just leave going forward because there was no backing the truck up. So, yeah, it had its fair share of problems. But hey, we've all been there, Rod.
We have definitely all been there. All right. You know what? I'm ready to break down some bets. How about you?
I'm ready. Let's get into it. I'm excited this week. I'm feeling good about a couple of teams. I found some stuff I really like.
I found some stuff I'm okay with. Like I don't know that I really liked it, but I definitely know that I think it's going to cash. So
see, this is one of my. I don't know. I shouldn't say it because I feel very confident going into this week. I like what I found out here, Rod.
Good. All right. Well, we'll get to that. But first, let's say about Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live for the NBA Finals. You can create entries with up to 8 picks. Underdog's going to automatically double flex your entries, so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. Look, I know that we have been doing very, very well for ourselves on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast side of things with these Underdog Fantasy plays. And of course, F1 has it as well. So if you want to get in on that, you can pick 8. Miss 2. I mean, mix and match NASCAR, mix and match F1, mix and match your favorite sports as well. Along with F1, it's so much fun. More picks, more ways to make extra entries to win. The excitement's higher than ever. You can tell because my voice continues to get higher and faster. But the best part is you can win up to 325 times your original amount, and you can use special boosts and bonuses now for all flexed entries. Cannot wait to make our pick 8. Might be inserting a certain driver from a certain team that has some bulls alongside of it, but maybe not the ones you think of as we start to put together our F1 underdog play. So don't miss your chance to try it out before it is all gone. Sign up today with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. All right, Cody, as we start to break down our bets for this Spanish Grand Prix, where are we beginning?
Yes. Speaking of Underdog, by the way, they do have F1 stuff on there generally. Nothing up this early in the week, but you usually will have stuff going into qualifying, then also going into the race. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel, NASCAR Gambling Podcast. I'm going to try and get a short out this weekend with some of my best plays over there. But, Rod, before we get into anything crazy for the Spanish Grand Prix, we're going to go back to old reliable. Look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it ain't broke, Rod. Yuki Tsunoda to finish in the points, minus 120. What else do you want? This dude just gets it done every week. I understand that he didn't get it done at Canada last race, Rod. He was 14th place. But he was in like 7th or 8th place with just a few laps to go. goes off the track, has a little oopsie, ends up in 14th, but he was easily cashing this all damn day long. So I'm going to still count that as he was in the right place. Something bad happened. It happens. But you go back before that, 8th place at Monaco, 10th place at Imola, 7th place at Miami. And we had a 19th place at China in there. Shit happens, right? 10th place at Japan, 7th place at Australia. I don't really know what else to tell you, Rod. Like, he just keeps getting it done. Oh, by the way, 12th place last year here. Pretty good run when he wasn't having as good of a season as he is now. And 10th in 2022. So he was in the points in 2022, well before the great run he's having so far this season. He's clearly the next, best of the rest, if you want to go with that. And he's hard to kind of even bet on that bet now because his numbers come down a lot. But minus 120 for him to finish in the points. Look, it's hit way more weeks than it hasn't. He's been in the points and close to the points the last 2 seasons at this track. I don't see any reason he doesn't get it done again this week. He's been showing up in qualifying, had very good runs lately. I think, Underdog gave him like 13.5 at Canada or something like that. We tossed that one out, and he smoked it. Like 7th or 8th place where he qualified. Wasn't even close. So, again, I love you, Soda, every week. This continues to hit. Should have hit again last race. So I'm just going to keep playing it. Yuki Tsunoda points finish, minus 120. Oh, Rod's having an issue with his microphone now. So,
oh my goodness. This is ridiculous. All right. Sorry. I'll never use that button again, ever again. For those of you listening on the podcast, that awkward silence was you contemplating your life. No, listen, Yuki Tsunoda, minus 120. Yeah, what are we doing? Honestly, what are we doing? That there's no, not even
like,
if you pay the juice if you lose.
If you're a NASCAR bettor, that's like leaving Sam Mayer at 16-1 every week.
Yeah.
Well, he won last week because that's what Sam Mayer does. What are we doing, Rod? I don't get it. But hey, keep giving it to us. We'll keep taking it.
Keep giving it to us. We'll keep taking it. Yeah. To me, that's just one of those things where it's on auto lock, almost like an Austin Hill top 5 bet every single week. Even though sometimes it doesn't hit, you're happy when it does. All right. I kicked myself last week. I was scrolling through this one. I had it on my little rough notes that I tend to make sometimes to myself. And I was like, nah, because this could be the week where it doesn't happen. I know there's weeks that it doesn't happen, and this could be the week that it doesn't happen. So maybe I'll leave it off my card, and then it happens. So I'm not making that mistake this week. I'm going to take Logan Sargent as the last qualified car at plus 185. This is almost as what are we doing as Yuki Tsunoda at only minus 120 for a points finish. Sargent at plus money to be the last qualified driver. And I'm tossing in a bonus. You don't have to do this, but I feel like this is a pretty good too. A first retirement at 10-1. So plus 1,000 for first retirement, and then plus 185 for a last qualified. Allow me, and I hope you haven't eaten anything or are prone to vomiting at hearing stuff you don't want to hear, but I'm going to read to you his finishes this season. 20th in Bahrain. If I'm keeping count, that is the last qualified driver. 14th at Jeddah. Okay, not bad. Started 19th though, so day could have gone very badly for him there, but he did improve. Then 19th at in Japan, right? I think he was even the last qualified driver in that race as well. I mean, he finished 17th. I think he might have been the last qualified driver there as well, because I think a couple of people crashed out. Yeah, he was the last qualified driver in the Japanese Grand Prix. So he would have cashed that on that as well. And then in the next week in China, he was the last qualified driver in China because Ricciardo, Tsunoda, and Bottas all crashed out. So again, stop me if you heard this. This is a broken record at this point. And then in fact, in Miami, he crashed out of that race, right? Big hype for this being his home track, his home Grand Prix. Guess what? He crashed out after 27 laps. So he was not only the first retirement, he was the first retirement. So that would have gotten you the 10-1 on that one. Logan Sargent was not the last qualified driver in Imola, but again, he's done this more than he hasn't. And he almost was the last qualified driver in Monaco, but if it wasn't for Zhou Guanyu having trouble as well and being the last qualified driver, he would have gotten you that as well. Canada, he was actually the first retirement. And again, so first retirement, or last qualified driver. He is one of those two each and every week. So how you tackle that is you bet both. You bet first retirement or last qualified driver, because either he's going to wreck out first or he's going to finish last of all the drivers that are still on the track. It's just the way it's been for him all season long. This is almost a super lock and maybe the first bet I ever placed in Virginia. So we'll see how this one goes.
Ooh, I like it. Plus 225 over on Bet365, Rod. Even better for his last classified finisher. Yes, I love it. Was great to get an American driver in F1. He's going to be on next year, and we'll probably see him in IndyCar, so that's going to be fun. But it's not been a good run in F1 for Mr. Sargent, and I think that will continue this week. To your point,
I agree. All right, should we let's go ad free for the rest of the show, shall we? Let's go ad free, and to do that, let me tell you about Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. You got to have Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data and actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter data-driven decisions. And unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decision. Plus, it's never too early to start your NFL projections on there as well. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Commercial free, Cody, for the rest of the show. Where are we going next?
Yes, let's kick it over to Mercedes, Rod. I've been impressed with what I have seen lately from these guys. So I'm going to go in on both of these drivers. Take the double top 6 for them over on DraftKings, plus 185. Double podium, Rod. Just a little sprinkle there at 25-1. A little less confident in that one, obviously, 25-1. But I think that there is a chance that it could happen. So if you go back, basically, at this track, well, it happened last season, actually. The double podium did, Rod. Lewis Hamilton in second, and George Russell finished in third. You go back to 2022. George was also on the podium once again in third place. Lewis in fifth place. Now, I get it. Mercedes was a lot better back then, and it's been a little rougher lately. But you go back to last week at Canada, third place for Russell, fourth place for Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis was, I think, 2 laps to go is when George got past him and missed out on the podium for his first time this season. I do have another play on Lewis Hamilton that I like, Rod. Article over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Check that out if you want the bonus play there. But third or fourth place last week, so obviously that's cashing your top 6 for you. Really close to getting your double podium as well. You go back to Monaco. And by the way, Lewis Hamilton had the fastest lap last week as well. So I'd like to point that out as showing some speed, obviously, having that ability. Monaco, they were 5th and 7th place. So again, really close to that double top 6. At Imola, 6th and 7th place. Again, really close to it there. Russell had the fastest lap that week. Go back to Miami, 6th and 8th place. So they've been flirting with it, and they've gotten a little bit better here, as 6th and 8th, and 6th and 7th, 5th and 7th, 4th and 3rd. So just getting a little bit better. They seem to have found something. I'm not claiming that they've caught up to Red Bull by any means, but they've put themselves back in the conversation. They've been good here in the past, right? Obviously, Lewis has just great numbers everywhere. He's got a ton of wins here. He's done all sorts of things. We know that that's basically his story everywhere. But these last couple of seasons, both of these Mercedes drivers have been pretty good here. Now you're getting a little bit of a solid flash from them. You're getting a good number, too, like double top 6 for any of these top teams. Generally, you're not getting a very good number, right? But almost 2-1 over on DraftKings for Mercedes to do the double top 6. I like that. And the double podium, it just happened last year, Rod. They were one spot off of doing it this season, or just last week at Canada. 25-1. It's worth a sprinkle. Love me some Mercedes this weekend.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, too, about Canada. Both of them actually looked really good at Canada. George Russell really looked good last week at Canada. And for Lewis Hamilton.
I think Lewis, what was Lewis's quote? It was something to the effect of one of the worst performances I've ever had or something, and he finished in 4th place, Rod. So I'd like him to just, not have the worst performance, and maybe he's a little better than 4th place. There you go.
Well, I mean, you look at his track record there too, and you can understand why. It was like win, second place, third, win. So I could understand his frustration, especially on a track when you know you're gonna crush and you end up not crushing. So, yeah, I mean, look, I like it. Especially, I really love the double six. The double six or the top six is really, I think that's where I'm leaning into because I've got something that'll contradict what you just said in mine. I almost hesitated on not putting this one all together, right? But then I realized that anytime you're getting Red Bull anything at plus 350, you have to grab it. And so in this instance, it's Red Bull double podium plus 350. We don't see that very often. We don't see this below anything from a plus 150. Sometimes it's very rare that it's at this high of a number, right? Plus 350 for Red Bull double podium. You can get that on both DK and Caesars, but this one comes with a whole lot of risk that you may not want to take because the risk obviously comes in the fact that we now know that Perez has that grid podium or that penalty, right? That grid penalty. So he's going to start 3 spots back. But if there's one team that can fight through any of that adversity, it is Red Bull. And we know that Max Verstappen on this particular track has got two wins in a row, right? And he hasn't finished worse than third only twice in his 9 starts here. So he's been on the podium every year, but twice on this track. 2017, he crashed out, finished 19th. In 2015, he finished 11th in that Toro Rosso. So he wasn't even Red Bull yet at that point. So yeah, I mean, it's third, second, first. So he's definitely we're not even worried about him getting on the podium. The only way he doesn't get on the podium is if he wrecks out, right? Or if something really, really terrible happens to him. So that's a lock at 350 for that. The only part that you're getting is Perez. You look at this track, he's the last few seasons since he's been in Red Bull, the last 3 seasons, 5th, 2nd, 4th. I know only one of those is a podium finish, but at the same time, it's Red Bull. We saw it last season so many times where it was Max 1, Perez 2, Perez 1, Max 2 in a couple of instances, right? Perez was on the podium a lot last season. This has not been his season. I get it, but 9 podiums in 22 races last year. It was just, he's got to get back there, right? This team has got to figure out something that's going to get him back in the mix. Got to find him some speed. Got to overcome that finish. But he started off on fire this season. 2nd at Bahrain, 2nd at Jeddah, 5th at Melbourne, which was like, oh my God, 5th for a Red Bull. But then 2nd in Japan, 3rd in China, 4th in Miami. 3 really bad races in a row, right? Imola 8th, Monaco 18th, and then Montreal 18th in Canada. A couple of crash outs of that. But like I said, if there's a team that could turn this around, it's Red Bull. Perez is still a damn good driver. I mean, he's in great equipment. Put him on the podium, even if he's on the bottom step. Like I think he's going to be on the podium. He's going to find his way up there. They're going to find the right pit strategy. They're going to find the right speed, and they're going to get him on the podium. So put both the Red Bulls plus 350 on the podium for this race.
Yeah, I think it's a good bet because you're getting it at plus 350, right? If it was shorter, which is what we generally see it at, then yeah, maybe not so much. Yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks for Checo. If he can just get through Q3, and then I think he won't have such a problem. There is this grid penalty. It's going to put him back a little bit, yes, but maybe he can be the second fastest qualifier. He's only starting 5th. You're only 2 spots off of the podium. Look, Max is probably going to be on the podium, right? Yes, the other teams have maybe sort of caught up. Still minus 200 to win this race, right? Let's not kid ourselves in thinking that he's not still the almost prohibitive favorite to win, because that's how it is. Checo can get it done. We know he can. We saw it early this season. We saw it last season. Yes, it's been a brutal stretch of 3 races for him that have been absolutely just fucking horrible, but we know he can get it done. Max, by the way, Rod, the only teenager to ever win a Grand Prix, did it here in the Spanish Grand Prix in 2016. So thought that was a little fun fact that I stumbled across earlier this week. So yeah, he's been pretty good here for quite some time, back to when he was a teenager even. So, and then yeah, obviously the Checo part of this is your risk, but plus 350 when you've got the guy who's minus 200. Shit, what's Max's number for a podium? Because I mean,
it's pretty bad. I think
like,
it was
like
500.
It always is, right? So Yeah, he's minus 600. So,
Okay, see.
I mean, that's how sure they are he's going to get on the podium, right? You just need one other guy who, by the way, is probably still in the second best car in the field to finish up there, and you get that plus 350. So I do like the argument there, Rod. A bet that I really like this week is the winning margin. And I'm going to go with under 10.5 seconds. This is minus 125. I know the big gasp from Rod. Here's the thinking on this, Rod. Last season, Max Verstappen won this race by 24 seconds. Not really helping my case yet, but that's okay. In 2022, this race was won by 13 seconds. In 2021, this race was won by 15 seconds. So 3 for 3 on the overside of this. But, Rod, if you go back and you look at what have you done for me lately and how have things been, we talked about it, right? The field's catching up. We're not even 100% sure that Max wins this race. If somebody else wins it, much less likely to win by more than 10.5 seconds. Even if Max wins it, let's go back and look, right? Canada only won by 3.8 seconds. Now, that was 9 seconds last year. So it had been a bigger gap, got shrunk. Go back to Monaco. Leclerc only won by 7.1 seconds. The year before was 27 seconds, Rod. Let's go back to Imola. 0.752. That race was canceled in 23, so not a comparison there, but 16 seconds in 2022. You go back to Miami, 7.6 seconds. Now, that was only 5 in 2023, so, but it's coming in under that 10.5. China, 13 seconds. Japan was only 12 seconds. Only 4 of 9 races have gone over this number this season, Rod. And those 4 races were in the first 5 races of the season. Things have changed lately. And yes, the history of the last couple of years has been runaway big wins, but we've had that same history some other places, and it's not been the case here lately. I'm going with the trend of even if Max wins this, the other teams have gotten closer, and they can keep it within 10.5 seconds. And if somebody besides Max wins this, I feel a lot more confident in it being less than 10.5 seconds. So winning margin under 10.5 seconds, minus 125.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of like a scary thing to do, but I really do like this because, like you said, they're closing up, and I don't know if it's just me or it feels like the teams are starting to pull a little more strategy out of their rear ends than they were last year to try to close this gap. They figure it's hard to run him down on the track, so let's start with a tire strategy different. Let's start with.
I think they might have been trying some last year, but it just didn't make a difference.
It didn't seem like it, but
I think it is working better this season, and because things are closer, and we've had some timely cautions, or I always say cautions, but safety cars, right, that have really helped, like Lando in Miami, for example, and last week it played in Max's favor. And there's no guarantee of any safety cars this weekend. I think it's like minus 120 either way because it's, very can go either way. But you might not even need a safety car just to keep this one close because of what it's been lately. Again, yes, 3 for 3 going over the last 3 times here, but I like the examples of how close all the races here lately have been compared to how not close they were last season, because I think that gap has shrunk a lot. And I think you're getting a good deal on the underside of this. And I think we're just not quite used to seeing it so much. And it's like, oh, well, Max is going to do Max things. Well, not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso would say.
He may do Max things, but who knows what Max things are actually this time around. So, yes, I agree with you on that one. All right. Much like the number bet for me, I am going to go back to one of my favorites, and that is the fastest pit stop. When was the last time I gave one out? I think it's been a little bit that I've given out a fastest pit stop.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah. And the thing about it now is that if you look, like the fastest pit stop always Red Bulls is usually the favorite, and they are again this week at minus 175. However, last week, if you would have placed that bet, you would have not won. Why? Because Ferrari took home the fastest pit stop in last week's race in Canada. Now, that was kind of wonky because there was like a gazillion different types of pit stops going on. Red Bull, I don't think even came in nearly as much as Ferrari did. And we were putting inters on, we were putting slicks on, we were putting those ones that you go 4-wheeling on out there in the mountains. Like there was all kinds of different pit stops going on for all kinds of different reasons. But Ferrari did take that one home. I also will say that Ferrari has the second fastest pit stop at all overall this season at 1.94 seconds to Red Bull's 1.9. And they are second in the overall standings in terms of the overall pit stops. Red Bull leads the thing with 264. Surprise, surprise. But Ferrari behind them at 151. My main reasoning for this is because Ferrari's at plus 300. So a 3-1 for Ferrari is the fastest pit stop when they're probably the second best team. I know McLaren tends to poke their head in there every once in a while, but they haven't necessarily been all that much of a threat to them over the last few weeks. It's been Ferrari and it's been Mercedes actually did it once too. So you gotta work that in there where I think Ferrari is going to be. And then of course, when you think of it this way too, this is Carlos Sainz's home race, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. But like these guys are going to be extra pumped to be able to go out and put him in a better position if they need to, or just get him out of the pits faster, right? I mean, this is an opportunity for them to shine and let Carlos shine. Carlos Sainz. Let him shine. I don't know, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz. I'm tired, guys. To let Sainz shine. So I think for them at 3-1, that's a hell of a deal for the second fastest pit crews out there. And when we talk about tire strategy for this, we could see an extra pit stop somewhere in there as well. This could be a 3-stopper if they need to. So yeah, give me 3-1 for Ferrari to turn the fastest pit stop, and it could probably end up being Red Bull again, but if it's not, I think a better safer bet is Ferrari.
Yeah. Man, Ferrari has had some blazing pit stops this season. I think it's honestly, when you put this in here, I was a bit surprised to see that this was the number that you were getting, Rod. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah. 3-1 for the second fastest pick teams. I mean, that's a huge gap between minus 175, which is why it stuck out to me so much. I was like, this is not that big of a gap on paper. Like the odds why they should be a little bit closer. So if it's not, snatch it.
Yeah, exactly. No argument from me here, Rod. All right. Should we get into the winners section? We're actually starting to get back out to, we're starting to give out some more winners now, right? Now that some people sort of have a chance. I told you I was all in on Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton does not even have a podium this season, Rod. What if he gets the podium, but also wins the race this weekend at 25-1? I like a little sprinkle on it. I think Lewis Hamilton's going to show up with something to prove this week. And I said it earlier, right? Every track is a Lewis track. He's good everywhere. But at the Spanish Grand Prix, he's been just extra special. You go back to last season, second place. 2022, fifth place. The 5 previous Grand Prix before that, he won all of them, Ron. So it's been a hell of a run for Lewis here. Again, I think they're starting to maybe find a little bit of something. You might need some help here, right? Strategy might need to come into play. You might need a Max issue or Lando to have a bad qualifying session, something like that. Yes, but I think that Lewis can put himself in position. I think he can get it done. I think at 25-1, it's worth a little dabble for sure. So give me Lewis Hamilton, 25-1. And then I'm going to go back to the fast lap market because you know I love it, Rod. First of all, Yuki Tsunoda, 100-1. It's an auto play every week. We're just going to keep rolling it. Fourth fastest a couple of weeks ago. Look, it's not crazy to see these guys pop up and do it. If they're going to keep giving it to me at 100-1, I'm going to keep hitting it every week. It's going to hit eventually, and I'm going to celebrate big time when it does. And then give me Checo Perez at plus 750. Here's my thinking with this, Rod. If he comes out and shits the bed in qualifying again, like he has for 3 straight weeks, right? Plus he's got the grid penalty. Maybe he ends up starting near the back of this thing. Red Bull is not sweating points yet, but they're not where they thought they were going to be at this point in the season. And if you only keep getting one good performance out of Red Bull on one side and not so much on the other side, Checo's going to need to pull his weight and get a point somewhere. So maybe he can get the fastest lap, plus 750. He's actually been pretty good at getting fast lap here previously. So he had the fastest lap in 2022, second fastest lap to Max last season, third fastest lap in 2021. So he's been top 3 in the fast laps here in Spain the last couple of weeks or last couple of years that we've come here. So I like that. And again, kind of two different ways to get in on Checo, right? You've got the double podium in case he starts well. I'm going to take the fastest lap in case he starts bad. Hopefully we'll cover one of them and hit this and find a way to make something off of Checo, whichever way he performs.
I hope for better days for him. It's got to be so frustrating to know that you are the weak link in the best team in the entire sport, and not even really the weak link. Like it feels so crazy to say it. And I know, I'm not trying to pile on him, but I know he feels it. I know he's probably sitting there thinking to himself, man, what do I got to do to catch up to Max? We're in the same equipment. We're in the same everything, but that just goes to show, a lot. And we always talk about, especially in NASCAR, the equipment that you're in, right? Outdriving the equipment that you're in, or Justin Haley outdriving the equipment that he's in right now. You can be in really good equipment and still not be an equivalent to the person that is driving alongside of you. And it's crazy to see it play out in F1, especially. So hope better days are ahead for Perez. This is going to be a weak narrative. It's going to be a familiar narrative. It's going to be a popular narrative. That's the word I was looking for. I talk for a living, but Carlos Sainz is home track, right? Caesars is playing in on this and wants you to bet. And I almost feel, and I feel like you should take this 24-1 for Carlos Sainz to win this race. Has he won on this track? Has he won on his home track yet? Nah, he's had 9 starts, but he has never finished outside of the top 10 in any of those races. So he comes to play. He's not wrecking out. He's not trying to take too many risks to put himself in a bad position. He's just putting together solid finish after solid finish after solid finish. He has been on the podium exactly no times in his career here, unfortunately, but a 5th place finish in last year's race, 4th place the year before that, 7th, 6th, 8th, 7th, 7th, 6th, 9th. He did start 2nd on the outside pole in 2023, 3rd in 2022. So he's getting closer. He's getting closer to that pole. He's just not being able to hang on to the finishes. But Carlos Sainz this season has been pretty damn good, right? Only other driver, or not the only other driver, but one of the only other drivers to win a race. He won at Australia, 3rd place in Bahrain, 3rd place in Suzuka, 3rd place in Monaco, which was impressive as it was anyways. He had that bad crash. I can't blame anything on anybody. Anything for anybody last week in Canada. Like, I'm blaming it on the rain. I'm Milli Vanilli in it. I'm blaming it on the rain that some of these guys got their bad finishes. So I'm tossing that race right the hell out. But other than that, he hasn't finished outside of the top 5 all season long. He's been in the mix. He's been able to stay around. Another one of these times, I think he's going to plug through. I think Sainz has one more win in him this season before he goes riding off into the sunset and taking that ride at Williams. So this is a better one. This may be the best shot he's got right now to win at his home track before he has to rebuild at Williams. So give me Carlos Sainz in his last race at home in a Ferrari to win this race, 24-1.
I like it. I think you're getting a good number. Yeah, Ferrari had a bad week last week. That's what's maybe fresh on your mind. But outside of that, Ferrari's looked pretty good this season. They're right there in the conversation with Red Bull, with McLaren, ahead of Mercedes probably still as well. So he could pop up and win races. He's already won a race this season, Rod. 24-1. I like it.
Yep. And he's won a couple, he's won in a couple of seasons already so far too. So if there's a Ferrari that's winning, you'd think it's Charles Leclerc, but it ends up being Carlos Sainz. So I definitely like that as well. All right, get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over our bets for this Spanish Grand Prix. Cody started you out with Yuki Tsunoda as a points finisher at -120. I said that Logan Sargent would be the last qualified car at +225 over on Bet365. So grab that number while you can. And you can also cover yourself with the first retirement at 10-1. Look around, there may be a better number. I didn't find one, but I think if you find a better one, that'd be fun too. I'd take that all the way down to like 8-1. I wouldn't even care. That'd be a good way to cover yourself too. Cody started you gave you a double Mercedes top 6 at +185 on DK, bumped it up to the double podium at 25-1 as well. I said put Red Bull on the podium, both of them at +350, and hope for the best. Cody gave you the winning margin under 10.5 seconds at -125. I said that Ferrari's fastest pit stop at 3-1 was too good to pass up. Cody said that Lewis Hamilton to win at 25-1 was a good way to go. Also adding on Checo as the fastest lap at plus 750 and the auto bet Yuki Tsunoda fastest lap at 100-1. I said, go ahead and give the home country boy a win. And Carlos Sainz 24-1. There's that boost over on Caesars. Grab that and have fun watching the Spanish Grand Prix. I know I will.
Should be a good one, Rob.
Should be a very, very good one. All right, guys, we will send you on your way to be able to go and place these bets. So in the meantime, Cody, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yep. Follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. A ton of content out this week, Rod. Tons of articles for sportsgamblingpodcast.com, including the F1 bets article. It's got a couple of bets that we didn't talk about here today in there, so make sure you go check that out as well. Stay tuned for the YouTube over on NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube channel and try and get a short out with the underdog picks later this week. And see you over on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
See you over on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. We hope you listen there as well. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Lately, it's just this. So kind of boring on that front. However, I will say that we do enjoy you being with us. And I'm glad that we were able to continue to bring you content no matter where we are in the world. We'll see you on the NASCAR side of it. And of course, if you're not there, we'll see you next week for another Grand Prix. We're going to be back again, back-to-back weeks. Exciting times ahead. All right. In the meantime, everybody, let's go racing and let it ride.